Cutter's Degrassi Unpopular Opinions. Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to yet another Degrassi Unpopular Opinion / hot take. And this hot take is basically what made Rick tick. What made Rick tick? Seems like a song title, but anyway. Now, everyone knows about my Degrassiisms playlist and the what ifs, and basically talking about the Rick Murray situation and all that. But basically, you got to look into the psychology of this guy, Rick Murray. I know I did a case study on him and basically how he was a character in seasons 3 and 4, and basically what he did. I'm sure a lot of people know about who Rick Murray is, and if you don't know about it, you just look him up on the Degrassi website. However, to give you a shortened version, and this does lead into the unpopular opinion, the hot take, if you will. It's basically that, Rick was introduced in season 3 as someone who was a suitor for Terry, and Terry didn't have a boyfriend because all her friends did. So Rick seemed to be a nice guy and all that shy and much into acting, but then Rick gets jealous of the fact that Terry is with Jimmy's group in a, Terry, Ashley, and Jimmy. No, Terry, Rick, and Jimmy are in the same, thing, but they want Jimmy to write the stuff. And Rick doesn't like to be assistant. And basically, Rick decides to try to tell Terry some acting techniques that are good and all that. However, they all sucked. And basically, it might have been a ploy to basically get mad at Terry for the fact that she has googly eyes on Jimmy. Or so he thought. So basically, he was upset over how Terry was listening to Jimmy and probably thinking that Jimmy was going to steal Terry away from him. So he wasn't too pleased. Unfortunately, though, that was falsified and all that. But that didn't stop Rick from beating up on Terry and basically angry at Terry for listening to Paige and Hazel, and basically said that you can hang out with them at school, but not outside. You can't see them around because they're poisoning your mind and all that. So basically, Terry's not too pleased with how Rick is treating her and all that. Rick accidentally pushes Terry in an alleyway. Terry breaks up with Rick, rightfully so. And then basically they end up being in an acting trust exercise. And basically they bump into each other and they said, oh, well, let's just get this out of the way. And then all of a sudden they both fall for each other. Especially with the fact that Terry is told by Paige that she's invited to go to a road trip with her and Spinner and Jimmy with Hazel. And Terry's like, but I'll be all by myself and all that. So she tries to find a guy, and it's like Rick and all that. Everyone else is too concerned about Rick and basically thinks that Rick's out for trouble. So basically, Rick does tick Paige off. Paige basically gets mad at him. He runs off. Paige actually runs off towards Rick. So Terry tries to calm Rick down. Rick obviously is upset over the fact that Terry is basically being poisoned by all her friends and all that he's not a good guy. So basically he pushes her onto a rock, puts her in a coma. He has blood in his hands. He runs off. He somehow is tracked. Spinner and Paige thought about the fact of the matter is they have to get Terry to the hospital. So Terry's in the coma and all that. Paige and Spinner want justice for Terry, especially with Rick. Rick gets pulled out of school. I thought he got expelled because of the backlash. But no, his parents pulled him out. I think Rick might have said something, not the complete truth, but basically to get his mom's sympathy. So basically, Rick's away, and we're thinking, well, that's a good resolution. Finally, he's out of the school, and nothing wrong. Unfortunately, Terry leaves the show, gets written off the show, and then season 4 happens for a few episodes. Okay, fine. And then Rick comes back. It's like, did they just put Rick back on the show? So Rick basically comes back. Everyone is upset. Marco and Alex, who are student council president and vice president, respectively, tries to fix the situation with Raj, but Raj basically says that with Terry not at the school, he can't talk about her matters, and basically the fact of the matter is, to his knowledge, there's no criminal charges placed on him, and basically that any student can still study at his school unless they have a criminal charge and all that. So basically, yeah, that didn't go over so well. And Rick used Roger as a guy, saying that you can't touch me at school and all that. And so basically, Rick thinks happily. But unfortunately, unbeknownst to him, Paige and Emma come up with an Orange Ribbon campaign about domestic violence and all that. And basically, Rick gets bullied. Rick decides to go up to Emma and tell Emma that he's willing to give her money for the domestic violence thing, and like an apology. Alex does not believe Rick and rips up the check and berates both Rick and Emma. Rick basically is tripped up by Emma at the dock because Emma was trying to prove her worthiness in Paige's clique. But as soon as he stands up, the bullies think he's going to go after Emma, but then they beat the shit out of him. And basically, things happen. Rick gets saved by Emma because Emma thought that beating up Rick was going against the cause. So basically, Emma went with her cause over the clique and basically is friendless, kind of, at school because, Manny and Liberty cut her off. So basically, Emma tells Rick plainly that she felt pity for him and that's the only reason why she protected him. But of course, Rick doesn't think that way and all that. He basically has a new friend in Toby who basically got jumped off by JT. They're both in Wacky Brain with Heather Sinclair and Emma, and basically they're a good group and all that, but Heather gets replaced by Jimmy, even though that Rick is upset because Jimmy is a regular tormentor of Rick, and basically, Jimmy put him in a dumpster. But Rick actually may have had one, thinking he had the last laugh because he had spray cans. He probably bought them and all that, but the next day he decides to circle X everyone's car. Unfortunately, he gets found out by Alex. Even though she didn't have a lot of testimony to do with it, they basically wanted to beat Rick up and all that. Jimmy and Rick bumping each other in the hallway after Rick does the deed. And Jimmy is told that with Heather out of competition due to mono, Jimmy's put on the Wacky Brain team. So basically, Rick is not too pleased about it. He's told to go to Simpson about his concerns, but he won't. He goes to Radich. He tries to get Radich to understand, but he doesn't say the magic words. Basically, Rick slipped up as much as Radich, so basically Radich fails to protect Rick. However, Rick gets an ally in Jimmy because Toby gets beaten up by Spinner and Jay, who want to find Rick, and they know Toby's Rick's friend, and Rick says something about how Toby's going to get the blame and all that. So basically Rick now has a new ally in Jimmy. Jimmy protects Rick, but Rick doesn't make it easy for himself by giving the signal to Paige and, Alex in the group. He just signed his own death warrant, kind of. So basically, Rick is ready to go for Wacky Brain. Basically, I didn't talk about this enough, but basically, he's talking to his mom and all that. And basically, his mom says all these nice things about Rick and saying that Rick and Toby are going to control the school and all that. Rule the school with Emma and Jimmy. And all that. So Rick's living in a fantasy world. He basically has not told his parents about the bullying since. But then basically, Rick tells Emma, thank you for straightening me out. I smooth things over with Jimmy. And Emma says, you're welcome. Not realizing how much Rick was being a creep towards her. Holding her hand for too long, whispering, this is for you. During the tiebreaker, which, of course, in the bathroom, during the commercial break, Spinner and Jay convinced Rick to do the tiebreaker, unbeknownst to him, that they basically were setting up so that the paint and feathers will happen, and he doesn't have any clue what happened. Rick wins the tiebreak, wins the competition. Guess what? Paint and feathers fly. Rick is embarrassed. He goes to Emma for comfort, but then he starts to kiss her, and Emma says, what are you doing? I thought you loved me. I only pitied you. Get a clue. So Rick goes home. His parents aren't home. I don't know why he would cry out because, he knew his parents were out of town. But then he finds his dad's gun and basically wants to do some damage to the school. He goes back to school with his paint and feathers. He could have showered and done everything and all that. Still would have been the same thing. So basically, Rick's mind is upsetting and all that. He goes after Paige. Paige thankfully calms him down without knowing that Rick was going to shoot her. Rick puts the gun down. Well, Paige never saw the gun. No one saw the gun. So basically, Rick decides to go to the bathroom and clean up and all that, he does have in a deleted scene the confidence that Raj is going to be willing to do everything for him. So he goes to clean himself up. Spinner and Jay come into the bathroom, and then they see Rick's paint and feathers and basically decide to pin things on Jimmy to alleviate their own problems. Rick goes back to the locker, shoots Jimmy and all that. Finds Emma, Sean, and Toby, decides to blast Emma off for spurting his advances. Sean tries to calm him down, but he said, too late, I already shot somebody. Things can't get any worse. And then, of course, Rick dies by his own shotgun, and basically everyone is upset with how it is. Should we be praising this guy? Should we be, saying he's the devil and all that? He changed a lot of things for Degrassi and all that. Like, his parents may have got some answers, may not have got all the answers, but, got something out of it. And, things in the Degrassi universe were there. So, basically, what happened is that days ago, and for context, this is being taped on December 9th, 2020, that 9 days ago, such comment said, quote, I wish we explored Rick more. This is their post. Something had to trigger his abusive behavior. We never got to see his parents' slave. His mother seemed submissive a bit, not trying to justify who he is, but I feel someone around him had to trigger it for it. Like Craig's dad helped his bipolar disorder come out. People said that. Well, I put a quote that only got one Reddit point and said, personally, I don't think his dad was why Rick was abusive. It was because of his jealousy of Jimmy and his hatred of Paige and her clique for poisoning Terry's mind. And when Terry defends Paige in the group, this sets Rick off in season 3. People think that Rick had an abusive father similar to Craig, only at a more emotional, mental level of abuse. And for what they see of Rick's mom, she's sheltered him a bit as well. Someone said that it makes perfect sense because Rick seems to have a great relationship with his mom, and Terry Emma's kindness towards him mirrors the kindness of his own mom. Probably because the only reason why he latched onto them. Mr. Murray might have had an insecure streak or a temper and controls Rick and his wife through blackmail. And someone even said, his dad just so happened to be, quote unquote, out of town every time we go to Rick's house. I wish they should have shown him at least once. I thought they showed him once at the funeral. I guess not. Yeah, a lot of people like that. Yeah. So basically, that post didn't help me out a lot about this. So basically, I know you could say that, oh, well, Rick probably came from an abusive father, like Craig and all that. But I don't think so. This is probably an unpopular opinion as well, is that Rick's problems had to do with Paige and her clique in season 3. It started out that way. Because Rick was a loner and all that, and was happy being with Terry. Basically, Rick and Terry were having a good relationship, and then we saw the ugly side of things. When Terry, Rick ended up being in Jimmy's spot for a play, all that. Rick saw how, Terry was drawn towards Jimmy. And Rick thought that, Terry was drawn towards Jimmy, or basically the fact that Jimmy's still his girl. So he tries to help Terry out. I think he basically gives Terry awful information on purpose because he wants to sabotage Terry and Jimmy. Basically so that he can swoop in and get Terry back in his mind. Of course, maybe he had some relationship problems in the past for Rick. But the fact of the matter is that, Rick blew it. And then, when Terry tries to talk to Rick about things and basically talks about Paige and her group. Terry was basically the background character to Paige's bossiness towards her and Hazel. Basically, Terry and Hazel didn't shine that much being under Paige's shadow. So by proxy, Rick has a hatred for Paige because he figures that Paige is poisoning Terry's mind and all that. And basically, Terry is not to be a Valley girl, if you will. I don't know if that's a proper term, but regardless of what happens, I mean, Terry is a simple person who, you know, I feel so bad for Terry that, she really couldn't get out of Paige's shadow. She did actually sass somebody, like an ice cream vendor and all that, but that was in Paige's view. I mean, like, Terry could have done so much better without being Paige's shadow. Yeah, so anyhow, Rick didn't do himself any favors by basically yelling at Terry, basically telling Terry, you can't be hanging around Paige and her friends because basically they just want you to be just like them. And I will not have you like Paige and all that. So basically, I think Rick's rage started out with the fact that maybe Paige was his muse. Basically, he was going to take his aggression out on Paige with with Paige, however you say it. But when you look at things, it's like, his frustrations over Paige and poisoning Terry basically pushed him over the edge, and he struck her. How Rick didn't get in trouble with the school or basically the police after that incident is beyond me. So basically, Rick and Terry are split up, and basically Terry, after realizing that her friends are going on a road trip, invite her, even though she said, I don't have a boy to be with, but you're with your best friends, Hazel says. Terry and Rick and all that. Rick doesn't seem to be good and all that. Everyone figures that something's fishy, why Terry would be with Rick. I think it was just because Terry was lonely. And, her friends were paired up, so why can't she pair up? Like, I can understand Terry in a sense. But basically, Rick is once abuser, always abuser. Although that thing doesn't follow till season 4. But the fact of the matter is Rick's problems in season 4 were like how he hurt Terry was stemmed from Paige. It was Paige's fault in a sense. I mean, I know that it's less malicious than, how she treated Ashley in season 2. Ashley made one tiny mistake and they basically made sure nobody wanted to be around Ashley, even Terry. And basically, Ashley was left to be golfer and try to be with Ellie. Season 3, she kind of bounced back, but basically she wasn't herself, especially with Craig. Craig was the scumbag, not Ashley. Fight me on that. Okay, so yeah, so basically this was Paige's fault in a sense. Because, like, Rick, I can understand how he feels about the fact that he thinks that Paige is basically poisoning Terry's mind and all that. And basically how Terry seems to follow Paige and all that. And Rick wants Terry to be an individual. That's fine. But the way he did it is just terrible. Smashing her head on a rock, and all that. I mean, I can understand why and all that. And Rick was more enraged with the fact that Terry said that that's just Paige being Paige. Basically, after Paige insults Rick, Rick basically tells Terry that basically Paige is ruining your mind. Why are you not seeing it and all that? And that really angers him. So basically, Paige was the main reason why Rick blew his top and all that. So basically, it was Paige's fault in a sense. And then somehow he got back to the school in season 4 and all that. He tries to talk to Paige, saying, how's Terry doing? And Paige runs off. Terry's like, it's not here. And I feel that Rick was really trying to destroy Paige in season 4. I think in a sense he was hoping to destroy Paige because, she was the one who basically poisoned Terry's mind in season 3 and all that. And so basically he went after Paige first, or attempted to, after he got painted feathered, thinking that she was the main cause. And he knew that Paige was the started this whole Orange Ribbon campaign, despite the fact that it was kind of Emma's. But of course, Paige doesn't waver and tells Rick that basically everything was childish, and Rick realizes that Paige could not have done it. So he basically resigns himself to the fact that he may never get his answers. But in a sense, it's just hard to realize. I like Rick. He's a decent guy. But, I mean, like, he really hated Paige for that. But let's not forget, this is not the only reason why Rick has it out for Paige. Because speaking of poisoning people's minds, Rick obviously also thought that Paige was poisoning Emma's mind. Because remember, when in back Mercy Street, he talks to Emma because he's getting the Orange Ribbon campaign hit against him, and basically gives her the check and all that, the $500, thinking that he could just because Emma and all that. But he also thinks that because of Emma being under Paige's thumb, if you will, that basically Emma is made to bully Rick. Emma doesn't really bully Rick. She doesn't. She protects Rick and all that. And that's why Rick is attracted to Emma, because Emma at least standing up for him. And it's also because maybe Rick thinks that Emma is basically trying to get out of Paige's shadow, and is proud that Emma is getting out of Paige's shadow and all that. And so that's why he's drawn towards Emma. And being part of the Black Rain team together helps too. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. Be happy. So anyway, yeah. And obviously he had another thing, like, Paige because of the Orange Rain campaign. But he also is suspicious because how Emma has spurned him and all that just minutes ago. He thinks that basically Paige is forcing issues onto Emma, and that Emma can't be around Rick or even sympathize with Rick. I mean, he is right in a sense. But I mean, he thinks that Paige is basically too controlling of people. So basically, that's why he goes after her first. But then realizes Paige was actually being friendly towards him, and actually realizes that Paige could not have done it. Why would Paige say these things? So basically, he leaves it at that. And I don't think it was ever established. I don't think Paige ever knew that Rick wanted to go after her. And all that. Maybe Paige had an inkling because maybe she realized that Rick had a gun in the school, and maybe she thought, oh my God, he probably would have gotten me because of how the Orange Ribbon campaign happened. To me, I think that's probably what it is. But in a sense, I mean, like, Paige is why Rick went after. Rick was upset. I think his rage was basically Paige enabled, because Paige was basically keeping Hazel and Terry under her shadow, if you will. And maybe Rick thought that Terry should be outside of Paige's shadow, and basically was upset that Terry defended Paige and all that. That's what set him off. Paige set Rick off. And I think she kind of realized that somehow. But yeah, I don't blame his dad. I mean, his dad was a traveling salesman. I mean, like, he's not there for his son and all that. He's rarely there at home for his kids. That's a bad father in a sense, but, like, I don't think he was an abusive father. So no, I don't think Rick had troubles with his dad because, like, kind of like Craig with his dad. I think it was because his dad was rarely there. And I think that his rage was because of Paige. His rage because of Paige. Another rhyme. So anyway, that's all I've got for this video. I'm Jeff Diamond saying so long for now.